at IRC today. My heart is full with a lot of appreciation towards mini retreat and the community, towards you and the team who has made this happen, to the teachers who are supporting and teaching. So an important announcement, we will put mini retreat on a pause. Yeah, there are some changes happening in the center. Some resident volunteers are moving out and some just moved in. Yeah, so because of these changes, we need to shuffle around a little bit, and we'll let you know when or whether there will be another mini retreat. Thank you. So with this, I would love to take you on a walk with me again. It's such a beautiful day. And today, Lish, lots of you, many of you know Lish through the community time. She will be with me today, walking around.
Hi, Yanli. Everything looks so green.
Yeah. At the same time, the smell of fall is just in the air too.
Oh, you're going to go through the redwoods?
I am. Yeah.
How does it feel now in the shade in the redwoods?
Feels surreal.
I used to love to lie down and just look up in that spot.
Well, let's go the longer way. I think I mentioned this before. I used to dislike the fences, and then I become really grateful for their existence, because with my yogi mind, I feel like I can just wander endlessly into the forest. So thank you, fans, for stopping me doing that on retreat.
It looks a bit drier back here.
Yeah. I would like to thank Stas, our landscape manager, who spent a lot of his time taking care of our trails and trees and the garden. And I'd like to thank Richard, our landscape architect. This beautiful part of IRC became true, I think, because of his vision. And before Richard, I believe there is Betsy.
And there's Gwendolyn and Tina and Emily. Previous landscape managers, RVs.
The morning light is beautiful today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stas, for his work. This sand is some leftover sand from the new staircases that I just walked on. And I know that you all love the forest duck.
Oh, I love the way the lighting looks on the deck.
Let's take a sit. Thank you again, everyone. Yeah, it feels quite special for today's intro because the future of the mini retreat is a little unknown. And a lot of appreciation to the community, especially during the community time. I've seen your tears. I've seen your heart. I've seen my own tears. I've seen my own heart. Yeah. Thank you. And Lesh, please feel free to chime in.
One of the gifts of this time period is these new arisings of connection and community. And the mini retreats came because we had to close the center for residential activities, and they've been lovely. They've been supportive of my practice. Been an opportunity to sit with an array of teachers that are kindly offering their teachings, and a lovely community. And there was a team of us that worked on this, Yanli and myself, Heather and Kathy, and that was also just really fun and really a great place to practice. So we thank you for participating, and we'll meet again. And we're also thrilled today as Matthew is with us to teach. Yanli, are you still there? Do you want to introduce Matthew?
Yeah, and I also want to remind everyone that we'll still have community time. Sorry, we'll still have community time after today's mini retreat. and hope that you can join us and share your experience with us. The password is community, and the Zoom link is in the YouTube description. Thank you. I will turn it into Matthew. Thank you, Matthew, so much for your continued support to mini retreat and some Saturday mini retreats too. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanli. Hi, folks. Welcome. Yeah, so it's good to be with you, and really yeah, appreciate all the effort that's gone into these mini retreats, and not sure exactly how things will unfold, but there's some kind of pause happening at this time, and we'll look for ways to be to support the Sangha and be together. And I'm certainly happy to be involved. I'm happy to be with you today. And yeah, I loved seeing the stairs. There's you sort of notice little things that have changed at IRC. Somebody, Gabe, mentioned the deck. The forest deck was not there. Um, and that's a relatively recent development. And I was struck the first time I walked on that deck. It felt like remarkably solid. It felt like a sort of like concrete block, kind of. And I remember I asked Gil, like, what's the deal with this deck? And he said that it was scoped. It was built without a completely clear sense of what might rest on top of it, and accordingly, it was built so as to support a lot. Yeah, potentially a whole room or little shed kind of meeting room or something. And so it's a good deck. Yeah, you just put your feet on it and nothing kind of moves at all. It's sort of amazing to feel the solidity of it. And yeah, so it's good to be with you all, and happy to be practicing together. And so yeah, we'll have our time of sitting, walking, sitting, and some reflections, and then an optional community time for folks. So yeah, let's find our posture. Our practice is dialectic between expressing our strength and surrendering. So we surrender first to gravity itself, to the subtle, soothing downward pull of the earth. And then maybe we look around the space of our experience. What needs to be blessed by our awareness in order for us to truly arrive? Ajahn Sujito said that which we don't listen to, we become. the agitation not offered the blessing of our awareness becomes the basis for our action. And so we listen deeply. We relax everything that can be relaxed, whatever tension remains, we permit to remain. Amidst this stillness, amidst the space, amidst the surrender, might sense into the center column, the breath coming and going. And it's less like you shaping the breath, more like the breath shaping you. Just taking our cues from the very natural rhythmic movement of the air coming and going through this center column. You do not need to manufacture tranquility, samadhi. Just let the sensations of the breath shape you. Just keep surrendering into the simplicity of sensation erupting into existence and collapsing out of existence. to thank you. We'll have a period of walking, or if there injury or some limitations around that, any kind of subtle movement would be a worthy replacement. And the idea is to to nourish continuity and to stay close in, even as we add the variables of the visual field and movement, which seem simple and innocuous enough, but are deeply evocative to our mind. And so, in the same way that we allow ourselves to be shaped by the breath, maybe we allow ourselves to be shaped by the movement, by the rhythm of it, and use the alternation of sitting and walking to build the kind of momentum of Dharma, yeah. And that doesn't mean we have to evaluate the level of single pointedness or something in our walking. We just stay close in. We stay close in. We keep making this kind of very, very gentle effort to surrender. And you'll hear a bell in about 20 minutes, and come back for a sit at 10:02. Okay. in mysterious ways, what happened during the walking period makes its way into this moment. We complete the past. We dissolve the traces of the past by letting the echoes and reverberations do whatever they will in our mind and body. In other words, part of how we arrive here in the bottomlessness of the present is to bless the traces, to bless our past with wisdom and love. This is how we make our heart radically available. If you were sentenced to live this moment, this very moment, for all of eternity, how deeply might you let go? How much peace might actually be possible? Maybe more than we think. So thank you. It's yeah, lovely to practice with you. Uh, so I talk about suffering a lot, contemplate suffering a lot more than maybe anything else, even though I'm happy. And this path, this Buddhist path, the insight path, is it's very focused on suffering because, in an important sense, uh, we could say maybe suffering is our only problem. Yeah, it is, in a sense, the paramount human concern. And what we see is that when suffering dissolves, there's no need to manufacture goodness in its wake. There's no need to engineer happiness or delight or love or fulfillment in the when suffering dissolves. And so the path is quite focused around dismantling suffering uh, and trust that all the goodness will flow in its wake. And we ordinarily focus a lot on suffering, of course, and it is in this time, in this moment, a kind of season of suffering. And sometimes it feels almost reckless to have joy or delight. It's like there's some intuitive sense that that joy maybe demeans suffering, demeans our own suffering, demeans the suffering of others. It almost feels like ethically irresponsible in some way. I remember many years ago, after a significant loss in my own life and a period of grieving um, and I was with a friend, and I remember there were like the kind of um, almost like the flowers growing up out of at the beginning of spring or something, like bursting through some of the kind of sense of loss, where it was joy. Yeah. And I remember I said to her something like, like as we're sort of like both conscious of this joy, is like, I think I said something like, I don't want to cheat on my grief. Yeah. That sense of like the fidelity to pain, and the way that even a kind of a moment of joy can feel like a betrayal of suffering in some way. And it's a very interesting zone to explore, the ways that suffering often feels necessary. Yeah, that it has a purpose, that it has a place. And Sometimes maybe, yeah, but often not. And so we start to look at this kind of the fidelity that we have to our pain. And we ask, like, what exactly does suffering serve? What does it serve? I don't think it's a total accident that we mammals suffer a lot evolutionarily. And sometimes maybe it motivates us, it teaches us, it helps us choose differently. And so I'm not dismissive of the lessons of suffering, but sometimes suffering serves nothing whatsoever, or it motivates some kind of learning, but it doesn't motivate wise learning. Yeah. And yet there's a fidelity that we have, a certain kind of loyalty. And in light of this, it's important to remember that the Buddhist path offers many different varieties of bliss, delight, release. It's not the only part of the path, but it felt like in this moment I felt drawn to reflect on the many flavors of goodness on this path. And we experience them for their own right, but also because resting in goodness frees our heart up to open more fully to dukkha. So to name some of these flavors, there's so much there's so much relief in having one's experience described honestly and carefully. You know, it's like the like almost exquisite empathy of the Buddha. Yeah, empathy depends on details. It depends on the landscape of the inner life being articulated with a lot of precision. And the richer the detail, the richer the description of the inner landscape, the more complete the empathy feels. And the Buddha's empathy feels almost infinite. Yeah. Early in practice, I kind of was just so relieved that the inner landscape of my life could be articulated so clearly, so richly. This path is essentially a love of truth, of discovery, and there's so much joy in that too. Yeah, it's quite a kind of fundamental drive in the Dharma longing, you know, to see, to see. This is the philosopher Metzinger. The scientific, very sober, rigorous approach to reality and life, and the spiritual approach to reality and life stem from the same values, the same normative core. It has something to do with truthfulness. I guess the English word is veracity, the will, the pure will to absolute veracity, and also to accept the obligation of veracity towards oneself. Yeah. The path is a path of it's a path of discovery. Learning is always a surprise. Truth is always a little surprising. Insight is a little surprising. And there's a delight even when we come upon hard truths. There's a delight. There's a delight. There's a relief in having a path. You know, it's kind of like a sense of, okay, this is where I'm gonna make my meaning. Yeah, this is where I'm going to make my meaning. The poet Philip Appelman said, whatever we are, whatever we make of ourselves, that is all we have. And that, in its profound simplicity, is the meaning of life. There's a kind of bliss that arises when the gap between who we want to be and how we behave starts to collapse. Yeah, the bliss of blamelessness, right? Even when that gap just starts to shrink, yeah, who we want to be, what our kind of deepest values suggest, and how we behave, when that space begins to close, there's relief. Yeah, to do good simplifies a lot. To live in alignment simplifies a lot. And Mark Twain famously said, like, or joked, like, if you're honest, you don't have to remember anything, right? And when we live in integrity, what we do leaves, leaves no trace in the mind. It's only when we're out of step, out of joint in some way with goodness, that it leaves traces. And so I find, as I practice more, as my own sila becomes more complete, I forget more and more. Yeah, what has happened feels complete. It does not leave the same traces that if I'm out of integrity with my own deepest values, there's residue. One of my teachers, Shinzen Young, said we develop a taste for purification, meaning that there is actually pleasure. This is one form of pleasure. It's a weird form of pleasure. It's an acquired taste, but we actually develop a kind of taste for the experience of karma being metabolized. Yeah. For the traces, for that which is unresolved. Yeah. To actually emerge, erupt into the present moment and be blessed with wisdom and love. There's a taste to purification. It is quite different from marinating in pain, a sense of actually metabolizing something, the jagged edges of the past being smoothed out. There's delight in that. Stress, yeah, which sometimes is stress, is a translation that Thanissaro Bhikkhu uses for dukkha. Stress, described, an early description of stress by Hans Celia, as a non-specific response of the body to any demand. Yeah, a non-specific response of the body to any demand. That has a real resonance with Tanjeff's description, translation of dukkha. Yeah, non-specific response of the body to any demand. And our practice is about opening to change, opening to demands. But along the way, we need shelter from all demands. And when we focus narrowly, when the attention stabilizes, we start to become secluded from change. Yeah. There's a lot of relief when less and less and less is happening. Yeah. It's like the diametric opposite of being busy. Yeah. There are fewer and fewer and fewer demands being made. When you ask somebody how they are, almost nobody says, "Oh, I'm not busy at all." Right? We all feel a little busy, but busy is really just another word for samsara. Yeah. As we become more secluded, as everything, the chitta is protected. Things slow down. Yeah. There are fewer and fewer demands being made on the body. There's bliss here. There's bliss. There's rapture and ease. And the flavors of this become more and more refined, less and less stimulating. And as our attention stabilizes, as we become more develop the capacity to be secluded, to revitalize in that seclusion, what we find is that just one drop of love flavors the entire field. Yeah, when there's the attention is glued together when there are fewer and fewer demands being made on the body, yeah, when there's less and less stress, just one drop of love flavors everything. Yeah. They say boundless, boundless. Some years ago, a couple of friends of mine were teaching a day-long retreat, and I was a yogi student, just sitting the day long, and at the end of towards the end of the day, they did this exercise that they called something like a tunnel of kindness or something. And as I remember it, there were about 100 people in the day long, and we lined up 50 on one side, 50 on the other, a few feet away from each other, looking at each other. Yeah, and so we're standing shoulder to shoulder, and one by one, the person at the top of the tunnel peels off, blindfolded, and makes their way down this tunnel. And each person in the tunnel, yeah, the other 100 people, 99 people, are invited to reach over, place their hand on the shoulder of the person walking down this tunnel, and whisper something in their ear. Yeah. And I remember the person who was sitting in front of me during the day, I could just had this sense of her heart and her engagement with the teachings. And I remember when she came down the tunnel, I like whispered in her ear, like, I think you're falling in love with the Dharma. And she like squeals with delight. Yeah. And this kind of stuff is happening like all the time. Yeah. In this tunnel. Yeah. And I remember then it was my turn to walk down, right? I'm walking down the tunnel and I'm being offered kindness after kindness. And sometimes people are very generic, kind of general of like, just may you be happy, which is beautiful. It's nice to have that whispered in one's ear. But some people, like, I don't know, just through their own kind of intuitive sense, offered these highly personalized, tailored suggestions of love and care to me, who I was just a stranger. I was not known in this community as a teacher or anything. And I would think one person was like, you know, there's something like, there's a party in you that's waiting to get out, something like that. And so we're reaching like this fevered pitch of love. Yeah, it was like very high levels of kind of like activation and love and delight. And we're just like swimming in this pool of like bliss, really. It was like very, very blissful. And I remember the kind of realization of it being unsustainable, the level, the intensity of love, which is, some people might never experience that in an entire lifetime. And I felt very blessed to be with those teachers, with the Sangha, practicing, marinating in love. And there was a sense of it's unsustainable. And the realization that that virtually anything, no matter how good, blissful it is, can fatigue the heart. And there's only one thing that does not fatigue the heart, which is, of course, peace. All these flavors of goodness on the path. And their value in nourishing us and making us more and more available to dukkha, to the ethical implications of dukkha, for the heart to become more and more responsive. So I offer these words for your consideration, yeah, for you to investigate um, the ways in which ways in which joy can feel like a betrayal against suffering, and for the ways in which joy supports us to more fully respond to this season of suffering. So thank you. Maybe just as we uh, choose to perhaps go to the community time, if people want to chat in um, just how you are, how your heart is, just to see. Won't have time for questions, but just to see how you are. It's powerful to see. I'm seeing some chats coming. So yeah. Mm, yeah, beautiful. Wow. Our little YouTube Sangha here. Thank you. Thank you. So thanks everyone. Um, I will turn it over to the team and to Yan Li for community time, and grateful for all of you out there practicing, and grateful for the team, of course, at IRC that's DJing the walking hall, the sitting hall, the forest walk. It's like so good, so good. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. It feels special to have Matthew for this special mini retreat. Felt a lot of blessing and bliss during the talk. Mm. Yeah, if some of you missed the introduction, the announcement is that we will put mini retreat on a pause as we figure out the next step. And yeah, thank you all for being with us through shelter in place, wildfire, and evacuation. You're witnessing your heart